Hi, everybody. I am very happy to welcome Brett Trembly. He's the founding attorney at Trembly Law Firm and also the co-founder at Getstat. You can find him both at tremblylaw.com and getstat.com. So, Brett, thank you for joining us.
Senor Bravo, thank you so much for having me today, man. I appreciate it. This is fun. What do we got? What do we got in store?
Well, for me, it's a real opportunity to get to know the business owner. What I'd love to do is I'd like to start our interview with who you are, then the journey of your law firm, and finally, the path that you're walking with Getstat.
That sounds good to me. So who I am first, that's what you want to talk about, right?
Yeah, just for our audience to get to know you a little bit, what can you tell us about your
About myself, man, I'm so much more used to talking about my businesses, right? I'm a lawyer, live in Miami, and started Trembly Law Firm back in 2011. So just very, very strange that it's already 11 years later. And a few years ago started Getstat Up, married, 3 young kids, and just living the dream, man. Just trying to change the world one day at a time.
And I bet you're very successful at that. But now let me ask you, what made you want to become a lawyer in the first place?
I was drawn to legal dramas, as a kid, like movies and stuff. And I had a lawyer uncle, and I used to ask him if I could go watch a murder trial. I always thought that would be cool. Then again, I asked a lot of people if I could go do a lot of things with them as a kid. So I honestly didn't know that I wanted to be a lawyer. I just thought that law school would be fun, believe it or not. And I wasn't ready to kind of grow up and go be a real adult when I finished, undergraduate. When I got my degree, I wanted to keep going to school. So law school was a way for me to get a really good education, a good legal background, and to delay adulthood for 3 more years.
Okay, so you're one of those that wanted to keep studying and keep studying. That's very interesting.
Well, I didn't really want to keep studying. I just didn't want to get a real job, and start that process.
Okay, that makes sense. But eventually you did. Eventually you
Right.
founded Trembly Law. So can you tell us what your law firm does at a high level?
Yeah, we do business, franchise, and litigation. So we basically help business owners with whatever they need to either stay out of the courtroom or when unfortunately life happens. And if you're a business owner and you haven't had a lawsuit yet, you're one of the lucky ones, because it's almost like a badge of honor. At some point, it's going to happen.
Hmm. Yeah, and I do have it on good source that you also wrote a book about this, right?
I did. It's called the danger zones, and we kind of group what the exposure that business owners have into 5 areas, and just categorize them and saying, look, just think of these 5 areas for your business and how to protect those 5, and you'll be ahead 90% of the way.
Entrepreneur, business owner, and published writer. Now that's a trifecta.
Yes,
So
sir.
what can you tell us is one of the most interesting cases that you've ever solved or worked on?
Most interesting. I'll tell you the most fulfilling one, and it doesn't fit nicely within, like in business law. To me, business owners are the backbone of our economy, and value is created in this world not when we pay money to the government, but when entrepreneurs risk their own monies and come up with a new concept or a new business. And the point of owning a business is to do something better, so that people have access to better services or better products. But so I've had a lot of interesting commercial cases, but again, you're still dealing with commercial. The most rewarding one I've ever done, though, is I helped a family overturn a will on my client's father's deathbed. His nurse convinced him to do the will in her name, conspired by her husband and her son. So it was this big old mess, and we had to unravel it. And it was a 2-week long trial, the first trial I ever did on my own with the firm, and we won. And just the impact that I was able to have on that family was definitely the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I imagine very satisfied. The level of satisfaction for doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It's hard finding people that still believe on the right thing, doing the right thing.
Well, unfortunately, the money's not always in the right thing. And I don't mean the money's in the wrong thing. I mean, the money is, it's in business, and it's in commercial contracts, and you can't change the world if you're broke. And that's just a fact, right? Like if you can't even keep the doors open at your law firm, then you can't help anybody. So unfortunately, there's a lot more cases that lawyers would like to take that were just prohibited because of economic reasons.
So would you say that's something that really bugs you about your industry, or is there something that messes you up even more than that?
No, I mean, that's just life, right? Like unfortunately, yeah, I don't know. I don't know of a system that would work in a different way. I mean, a lot of bad things happen to a lot of good people, and I think we got to count our blessings more than complain. It's like if you're, it's a lot. Unfortunately, a lot of people in the U.S. that complain while they're at Starbucks, on their very expensive iPhone, not working. And it's like, well, there's a lot of people around the world that don't have those things. And yet, unless you're also a billionaire, then you're complaining. And so, no, I don't think it bothers me at all. I think everybody should just, do the best they can.
Yeah, yeah. From a personal point of view, I wouldn't say I'm a historian, but I am a history fan. And one of the things that I really like about that is knowing that history has been very violent throughout all ages. So if I look at the time that I'm living in right now, even with the pandemic and everything, to me, it is exactly that. Like, I got to count my blessings because I really have everything I need. So I am a lot more comfortable right now that I would be 200 years ago or 300 years ago or even
Oh,
100 years ago.
people complain so much, like we're not all perfectly equal, and all of our incomes aren't exactly even, and there's people who are this, that, and the other. Well, yeah, I mean, humans are humans, right? And we're tribal, and we're gonna always have messed up things about life. But in terms of overall violence, I mean, holy cow, again, 200, 500 years ago, it was just tribes killing and pillaging, and people just ignore that fact as if like we're so civilized, and how dare we not be perfect. So I'm with you, and I think it's the progress that we've made is pretty unbelievable.
Yes, yes, it is. Over the last 100 years, it's been breathtaking what we have: the car, internet, phones, the level of access, the fact that we're doing this remotely. This
Right.
interview is just like fact of that, right?
Well, right. And we didn't really talk about where this interview is going, but the fact that you're in a different country than me, and we work together, we're colleagues. International business is only going to help make the world even more peaceful, because countries rely on each other now, and our economies rely on each other. And like, how cool is it anyway?
Exactly. That's what I'm also there with you on the count your blessings. Like, this is something that I never imagined I could do. So I do feel very lucky that I get to live at this very moment, at this very
Right?
stage of my life.
Yeah.
So before I move on to another thing, because I'm about to flip the script on you, I do have a final question regarding the legal aspect of your business career. So,
Okay.
if someone you like was following your footsteps, when it comes to that legal career, what advice would you give to them?
You have to find the type of law that you like. I was on the mock trial team in law school, and I really enjoyed the trial aspect. But there's so many different ways to practice law. You can do trust and estates and help people protect their inheritance. You can get into family law and help kids or families navigate the court system. I mean, there's just so, but there's very niche. Somebody mentioned today, like there's horse racing law, right? Like that's very narrow. There's aviation law. There's emerging types of law too. There's people who are just focused on helping video gamers, and with their contracts. So you can have fun with anything you choose. And if that's within the law, then just make sure that you find the type of law that you really enjoy, and then build a career from there, whether it's being a lawyer or being more of a business owner in a law firm. I mean, that's secondary. You got to find what you enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, you got to follow your passion too. Okay. So I get that. But when it comes to passion, that brings me to our next subject. Like, I'd like to bring Getstat up to the table. I know
Sure.
this is one of the big projects in your life. So what can you tell us about this company?
Our people are terrible and I hate them all. I'll tell you that when we got into this, I was asked yesterday on a podcast or maybe Monday, whatever. What was the aha moment when you knew Get Staffed Up was going to be successful? And I didn't want to sound presumptuous. I didn't want to be like, well, we always knew, but we kind of knew we were onto something pretty special early on, and we were surprised that we were going to be kind of the first, and we were really confident in our ability to execute, right? Because everyone can have the idea, but then not everybody can execute. Or I'd say not everybody has put in the time to learn how to execute, and that's what we've spent a lot of years doing is having business coaches and reading the right books and really becoming students of the game. So but we set out to really help lawyers find great people, and we do that, and it's fun, but it's not as rewarding as the other way when we help really amazing people from a different country find their a permanent job, and suddenly now they can buy a house, or they can get married, or they can have kids. It's like finding just wonderful people, and Joe, you and I know this because we work together now, but I mean, got friend now have like unbelievably cool people that I know in all parts of Mexico, of Latin America, South Africa. It's just like crazy to think all the different lives that we've touched. It's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it's also a very moving thing because now that you mentioned that, one of the most rewarding cases that you've ever worked on is something that brought a lot of justice and personal satisfaction to you. And I can imagine, or I can even see how this does the same thing, but at a different level.
Yeah, I mean, it's I never thought about it that way, but it's true. It's like helping people change, like fundamentally change their lives is something that I never set out to do, and it wasn't like a huge like I'm gonna change the world or whatever. But even having a small impact, or maybe even not so small, all the people that we've helped is it's just such a cool reward that we never really considered.
Yeah, I remember when I was in law school, there was a criminal attorney that I met, and because of how he wanted to go about in life, eventually one of the students asked him like, "Hey, how do you sleep at night?" And he pretty much answered, "That's the size of my bill." Like that was his whole agenda. So
Yeah. Well,
not. Mhm.
yeah, I mean, look, this is a podcast for lawyers, right? So it's kind of like even the worst person in the world deserves representation. So like if you're a lawyer, I mean, I don't agree with certain things that certain lawyers do, but I'm not going to attack every criminal defense attorney, because it's important that it's really important that everybody is defended, and we make the government prove the case, because if we start whittling away the duty of the government to have proof and evidence, then we can start to slip back to where people in power and people always like hear what they want out of this, right? Because there's two major political parties in the US, and they both do it. And so if you're saying like, oh, it's always the other guy, like you're just delusional. Both parties have their people in power take advantage of the system and would look to sort of punish, right? Like you'll see a certain company get audited when someone's in power, and vice versa, because they're political adversaries, if you will. And so it's just really, really important that you would think those kind of principles, like freedom of speech, big issue now with Twitter, you would think everybody would be rallying around the idea that we don't have censorship, with collusion from political parties and big companies like that. So just a kind of a weird time. I don't want to go too much on a tangent, but that's my answer.
No, it's not. For me, more of what it is that you do, as long as you make it, as long as you do it fair and give it justice, adequate representation, it's something that everybody needs and not always people get. So I do get that. But coming back to the get stepped up side of the equation, because you are a business owner and you are familiar with both sides of that equation, when it comes to get stepped up, it must be nice not having so much politics involved when doing something good.
Yeah, not yet, right? I mean, we had like one lady who was either going to be a guest on our podcast or I was going to be on her. She was like, well, I think you're just moving jobs overseas and I don't like that. And I was like, well, first of all, yeah, it's a global economy now, and I think that's a good thing. Second of all, um, what we're doing is taking advantage of different economies, right? And money doesn't convert the same. So what we can do is, in the US, you can no longer pay someone what you used to be able to pay them because of inflation, and they can't live a good life based on the amount that they used to. So those people need to continue to get better jobs and to pay them and keep paying them low and hope that they don't progress in their life so they can work for you and your business forever at a low wage is frankly unfair. So when you can find, and then what business owners do is, they either can't find people at the price point they want, so they just do it themselves and they don't hire, and then they're overwhelmed, and then we get right back into just being unhappy, and having a business is overwhelming. So if we can, continue to connect really amazing people from one part of the world with great people from another, and they're both happy, then that's a very rare win-win-win, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Okay, so that's what you do at Get Stepped Up, right? Like, so for our listeners, for people that are not savvy with this yet, what does Getstat do for your clients?
Yeah, we find incredible talent and place them full-time at your firm. So if you are, look, receptionists, intake coordinators, legal secretaries, personal assistants, executive assistants, billing coordinators, marketing assistants is a big one, client happiness coordinators. Every business needs to fill certain roles. If they're not filled, someone's doing them, and it's most likely you. But just because you don't hire a CFO doesn't mean you're not de facto the CFO. For example, we don't do CFOs, but I'm just making the point. Like, I always use a restaurant analogy. So if you're running a restaurant, do you really want to be your own cook, your own dishwasher, your own promoter, your own sommelier, your own bus boy or girl, your own waiter? Like, no, that would be a terrible restaurant. You have to get help. And unfortunately, a lot of businesses, people just don't get help. And so things either don't get done, and then that the business is miserable, or the business owner does it all themselves, and so they're always miserable and they can't figure it out. And so what we do is we help provide freedom both to people in the country with a great job, and to business owners, primarily lawyers here in the United States, to get incredible help at a fraction of the cost.
Okay. So let's say that one of our listeners is ready to take the next step with you. Like they know that they need their help. Like they face that situation. They're a one-man army and they can't do that for themselves. So what would you say are the next steps for them? What should they do?
Well, we're happy to help, right? Getstaffup.com. Obviously, we love to work with great people. If you're real miserable and you're mean to people, then there's plenty of other companies we hope you we hope you work with. We are trying to work with great people that are going to be really good employers. And yeah, I mean, it's easy to find us online, getstaffup.com.
Okay. And that's one of the things that makes this company so special or so unique. What would you say is the main differentiator from this company out of different staffing companies out there?
Well, I think it's our ability to find the top 1%. So we have a much larger infrastructure than any other company I know in the space. And we sift through thousands and thousands of people and resumes and hundreds of interviews every week, getting to the top 1%. and then we put them, you know, through a test flight academy to make sure that they're going to be very good for you. So the process is long and arduous on purpose. And what happens is we find people like you, Joe, and I hope people watching this are like, well, I mean, Joe's like, he speaks well, you know, he's handling a big part of this business. Like, I can find someone like that, and I can afford them. Yeah, absolutely. You just got to be smarter about hiring and not box yourself into, I need to hire who's in my little town or my local area. You know, open yourself up to the world, and possibilities are endless.
Yeah, it's a very big paradigm shift for some people but once they realize that this is entirely possible, oh, I mean, I've seen so many success stories as part of this company. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I got a couple of questions left. The first one is, if I were an investor, what are some things that I might be pretty excited about with Getstat Up?
Well, we got some really cool new things coming out soon. So I would be excited that Getstat Up doesn't rest on our laurels, and that we are going to continue to be and strive to be the best virtual staffing company in the legal field.
Yeah, I can attest to that. We're working on that. And finally, moving aside or stepping aside a little bit from Getstat Up and looking at as you as a business owner on all fronts, what's the best and biggest advice you could give to someone at the beginning of their own journey?
Wow. Employees don't cost you money, they make you money. So if you're opening up a brand new law firm and you're just like, you're going to start from day one, please get someone to help you from day one. You don't need to be miserable for 3 years before you find, you know, I'm finally ready to make my first hire. Don't make that mistake I did. You have to hire someone to do all the admin stuff so you can focus on the legal work. The time that that person frees up for you is really valuable time used to pay the bills, to bring in more business, or to do the legal work. Do not wait. You got to get help immediately.
Okay. Well, guys, you heard it from him. Solid advice and speaking from experience. Brett, we're out of time today, but I want to thank you for meeting with us and sharing your experiences. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to doing that?
Again, just go to getstattup.com and click the inquire now or hire now, and those will get filtered through everybody. And or you can find me on social media. Just type in my name. I think I'm the only one. So
the man, the myth, the legend. Well, thank you very much, Brett, and we'll see you on the next episode, I guess. Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.